Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture, brought to you by my sponsors, Mixum Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free, to their 24-hour customer service support, Mixum is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now, you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials, and the company has also printed so many successful Kickstarter campaigns, and a bunch of them you have even heard about on this very show. And I know somebody is about to use Mixum and actually use my promo code that I'm going to drop in 1 second here, but I can't tell you who, I can't tell you what the project is, but I've seen it, and it's going to be an amazing project. And when it comes out, I'm going to let everybody know what that project is. So they actually offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK, and Mixum can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to Mixum.com, and right now they're running an amazing promotion where listeners on my show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of a current order to get a 5% discount on their first order, and every percentage point counts when you're funding a Kickstarter, whether you're $1,000 over, $100 over, or $10,000 over. So that is mixam.com. Again, type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive a 5% discount on your first order. And also, I have another sponsor because I want my comic books to be immaculate and arrive immaculate from you guys in Kickstarter world. So you can go to BCW Supplies and use Pop Anime Comics to get 10% off your order. It is an affiliate link, but 10% off buying bags, boards, supplies, long boxes, all that stuff to make your comics actually look nice and to ship them to me nice, which is the most important thing here. I don't really care about your collection. I care about how it's shipped to me. And this is one way how to ensure that it is perfect. So go use Pop Anime Comics at BCW Supplies and make sure that all the books you ship out with your Kickstarter arrive perfectly as they should be. And without further ado, I have with me candy corn lover, comic creator, and writer JS Earls. So welcome back to the show, man.
Hello, candy corn hater.
See,
I know, man. This is a running thing.
So obviously, all jokes aside, we know you hate candy corn. We don't need to talk about that. It's all right. It's all right. You're on the wrong side of history. It's all right.
I know.
But you right now have Pistol Fist going on Kickstarter. It's a 96-page graphic novel. We spoke about Pistol Fist before, but I enjoy history. I enjoy the American Revolutionary War. I enjoy everything about it. And what is that comic and graphic novel about for those who missed our first interview, our second interview, and possibly our third interview that we did prior, speaking about it briefly, or for those who just don't remember that stuff because obviously the last 2 years that we've done those interviews, it feels like it's 10 years.
Yeah. There's been a little bit of stuff going on in the world in the last 2 years.
No shit, Sherlock.
No, and believe me, there's people who actually saw it or heard about it 15 years ago when it originally came out. Pistol Fist is basically I think one of the best descriptions I've heard is like it's a heightened version of the American Revolution with some key characters in it. The main two characters are Benjamin Franklin, and his family also plays a very key role, and also Salem Addix, who is the imaginary younger brother I invented of Crispus Attucks, who was a real person, who was the runaway slave, who was actually the first one to die in the Boston Massacre. And basically it's a story that really starts with Pistol Fist really wanting, well, that's his nickname that he gets when this offshoot of the science people that are working, they're not officially sanctioned by England, but they kind of do a little bits of Nazi experimentation on people, and they chop his arm off. They put a thing on it. It also, there's a reason why they're willing to give it to him, because it actually does bad things to him. I will not spoil the surprise for anybody who does want to read it. But yeah, it's not like he can just. It is like an electricity cannon.
It's not an electric laser beam with no consequences, is a good way to put it.
Yeah, and yeah, so it stuff happens to him, and it's not great stuff when it happens. But there's tons of symbolism in it. It's very steampunky kind of, but although it's prior to steampunk times, but it has a little bit of that feel, a little bit of I don't know, Wild Wild West or Zorro or Lone Ranger or whatever. It's kind of
Or a little of the American Revolution maybe in it.
yeah, a little bit, yeah,
It's that bit.
yeah, and we put a lot of in the back of every issue of the original issues, which I actually have right here. I was going to hold them up just to prove that, because it was a 4-issue thing. This is all 96 pages of the original story.
But we're going to talk about a lot of this because we're going to go deep, everybody. I'm promising.
Yeah. So
we're easing into it. I promise. I don't want to overwhelm the audience.
No, and I just wanted to share it. Yeah, because a lot of people, one of the biggest complaints I've heard about Kickstarters with comic book Kickstarters particularly, is things either not getting done or not being sent out. And that's why I've been kind of like, okay, listen, it's done. One of the big things is me getting full rights back to my character, because I only had 50% ownership of it for like the last 10 years almost.
So I was going to save that for later, but let's talk about that, because this is something that I think is very, very cool and also a very good teachable moment. Yeah. So I own full rights to Pop Anime Comics. I own full rights to My Elf. I own full rights to Conversations in Pop Culture. I own full rights to this T-shirt. You know, just to throw this out, I built this T-shirt. I own full rights to it. You know, one of the things that I made, and I made an executive decision in my business, is to own my business. Yeah. And every component of it. There's other things in my business that I own as well. But I think the gist is that, you know, that's a decision I made. I am fully in charge, and anything that I do will be a work for hire, will be a paid type deal. And there's no ownership exchange unless I sell something or I spin it off for a reason. And the company was built that way too. Yeah. And this is something, when I create a character, it's either I'm going to own 50% where it's going to be an arrangement, or there's going to be equity. Yeah. But I don't want to do equity because I think equity is bad. I'm not a fan of equity. I would rather do a royalty than equity. Yeah. Because and I think people don't understand that sometimes this has to happen. I think, you know, people are new in comics. There's not enough money. Sometimes an artist wants a piece of it. Sometimes, you know, you can't afford a page rate and you have to give equity out. I get all that. But also, when people own equity, bad shit can happen. In a lot of ways, there's different directions, different discussions, different components. And so what was this like? And knowing that you only had 50%, obviously monetarily, I don't think that's horrific. But obviously, creatively, it's a lot worse. I think that's a fair statement to be made.
Yeah, and the big thing, and I will share, definitely stuff that I've learned from it, and but the tough thing is, as a creator, especially when you're like an idea guy like me, who has a bunch of ideas and things, you don't like when something like that comes up.
I'm going to interrupt for 1 second. Sorry. Yeah. I want to catch everybody up. So when you only own 50%, you own 50% of the characters, 50% of the books, 50% of things, 50% of business decisions, 50% of licensing, 50% of optioning, 50% of going to Netflix, going to Hulu, going to Amazon. And the reason why I'm dropping all this, and then sorry for interrupting, and let you finish in 1 second. I want everybody to understand where I'm going here is that, you know, legitly 7 years ago, somebody said, hey, we want to make a Pistol Fist Netflix. That couldn't be done because a 50 is an automatic veto. It's not like you have 51% and your artist has 49% and it's deciding vote. That's what I wanted to express so everybody understands that you can't write a sequel to Pistol Fist because you don't have full ownership, but now you do. But sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, and it depends on the deal. I mean, like I was allowed to write a sequel, but I wasn't. But the other guy, one who owned it, would not pay anything for it to help fund that. So it was kind of pointless. And then if I did a Kickstarter or something, then they would get half the money. So it's like, so you'd have to. I mean, it's already. I mean, when you work with professional artists who need to make a certain amount to live. I mean, and with how long stuff like that takes. I mean, you're looking. I mean, realistically, for the whole thing, like $6,000 an issue, and that's really hard to raise on Kickstarter if you're not someone that's really popular. And then like if you are only 50%, then to get you to that 6,000, which that's nothing compared to all the fees that Kickstarter and Indiegogo and different things have that comes out of it, because you barely make, I don't know, 10% or something of what you raise. And so like you'd have to make like double that or whatever to get, so it was just never financially feasible to really do that. But I will say, yeah, one of the big things, and that if I would have had really thought about it, because I know a lot of people will have the same rationale that I do, where, well, this company is gonna, or this person's gonna do more work because it's gonna benefit them because they own half of it. But depending upon the thing, like if you're talking about a comic company, if you're talking about whatever it is, the problem is that they tend to have their own properties that they own 100% of. And if you think they're going to push your thing that they only own half of more than the stuff they own 100%, you're deluding yourself.
And just to add into this, it's not like Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples with Saga. Image doesn't own Saga.
Right.
Brian K. Vaughan, and I don't know their arrangement, but just for argument's sake, it's 50-50.
Right.
Fiona is going to work her ass off, and Brian's going to work his ass off because they own 50%, but they co-jointly own the comic, and Image is taking a small fee off of that instead. So Image doesn't own it, but Image is willing to push it out because, well, they want it to be everywhere, because they want them to do Saga forever. They want the rights to the trade. They want all sorts of other things where Image makes money and everybody's making money, but Image doesn't own Saga. Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples can go to Dark Horse tomorrow if they really wanted to with Saga. I don't know if they could go to Dark Horse tomorrow, but I think the idea is that you could leave Image with a book if it's creator owned, versus, your artist might have to come with you if they own a piece of it.
Right.
But, it's not versus a publisher owning 50% of it and then you own the other 50%. And that's a little different because you can't leave the publisher at that point.
Right. Yeah. And I will say, I mean, just another thing to keep in mind for people who do, get in a situation like that is don't try your best, no matter what kind of problems you run into, not to burn your bridges and not to badmouth the publisher publicly, because then they can, like, if you do want to buy your portion back or whatever, they can be a real pain in the butt if you're a real jerk to them. So there were times when I was not that happy, and I didn't share stuff publicly, and I still won't, because it's just, you never know if you're going to end up working with those people again, whatever. And honestly, it ended up benefiting me in the end because it wasn't an outrageous amount that I had to pay to get full rights back. And I've seen times when people have really badmouthed people, and the other people have kind of stuck it to them for doing that. And it's
the rule called the asshole fee, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just for those who don't know what this is, other people have other names for it. So, I'm very open, and I haven't had this problem yet. Mix'em is a great sponsor. They've been nothing but nice to me, and they've been more than generous to me. And a few other people who have bought live reads and a variety of other stuff have been more than nice to me. So one of the things that, is that if I have a difficult sponsor, what's going to happen is that if somebody's difficult and they're giving me a hard time and we're in a tough negotiation, well, I might start higher because I know they're going to negotiate me down. So the asshole fee, it's not that the ceiling's higher, it's the floor is higher.
Yeah.
And if you actually act appropriately, so if I was to get a deal with Comic Publishing A, for instance, and they own 25% of my book, all of a sudden at a certain point where if I'm not difficult, I'm very nice, I'm very respectful to them. We disagree, but I'm very civil. I say, hey, look, we're just disagreeing. Let's tackle this tomorrow. Let's deal with this in a month. All of a sudden, it could be firm and difficult, but if I'm not an asshole, I say, look, guys, what is this going to take? You guys are on a little bit of financial hard time. You want to fund books A, B, C, and D. Would $5,000 do it? And they might say, yeah, that works for us because, well, we don't really want this. You're not happy with us. But if I was an asshole, they might charge me $7,500 or $10,000 for it.
Yeah,
it's difficult. So I think that's something that people need to understand is that, and same rule goes with me. I don't know where I'm going to be in the next, year, but I'm planning to have a phenomenal year. I'm planning to make every episode get 3-4 more sponsors in, and I'm planning to try to double my audience. And I think it's very doable, especially when I go into podcast form. It's the idea, though, is that you're not going to see me being an asshole. And if sponsors start being assholes to me, well, the next round we negotiate, it's going to be, the floor is higher and the ceiling's higher.
Yep.
So I think it's very important that people understand this, that good business practices are very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, I'll just let people, one of the reasons why I did the deal that I did, was because at the time, once all 4 issues were printed, with Blue Water, which is technically the 3rd printer because I started self-publishing in between, and then Darren had called me up and said, you don't have a publisher? I'd love to publish with Pistol Fist. So I ended up doing that, and especially, and he was like, you can have, keep your full rights and everything. So we did that, but then I had a lot of, like, all in all, probably sold between the beginning and then through them, probably sold like 6,000 to 8,000 copies, maybe 10,000 over like a couple of years of the stuff being out. And so I actually had quite a few people that were interested, especially because it was different in dealing with history and everything. And we had a decent size, especially at that time around 2006, 2007, when the indie comic market was really hurting. It was actually like that. We were doing about 1,000 to 2,000 copies more than a lot of other indies. Not that there weren't indies who were doing gangbusters higher than that, but it was definitely downtime for indies, so it was a rough time. Anyways, but Blue Water wasn't interested in doing the trade. So then that was when I was talking to other people. If I had waited one more day, I'll say this too. If I had waited one more day before signing with Arcana, Chris Ryle of IDW called me the next day. I had already been waiting for I was waiting for 3 or 4 months, but but during that time, Chris Ryle was actually over in Europe and stuff and doing a bunch of stuff for IDW over there. So I knew he was really busy, and he legitimately is. I actually I interviewed him today with Mike Barron on the Barron Earls show, and we were talking about a lot of stuff. And he is one of the few executives that ever really put the effort into responding to people, which is a really bad thing that goes in the regular comic industry. For whatever reason, it's kind of weird of just not even talking to people, or just it's a very bizarre thing. And he didn't understand it either, because he at least he understands from the other side. It's like they need to know something, even if it's a no. They need to know something and figure out what they're going to do with their book, or whatever.
The difference with Chris Ryle is that Chris Ryle obviously knows Kevin Smith,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that goes on. And then me and Chris Raw were speaking about that way back in the
Yeah.
day
Yeah.
when he was on my show like 4 years ago.
Yep.
And my other show. And one of the things is that he was running Jay and Silent Bob in Jersey, or doing, I think, movie Poop Shoot or something.
Yep. Yep.
He wasn't interested in Jay and Silent. I think it was like movie Poop Shoot, and then like comic stuff came, and then Chris obviously was doing a lot of comic writing, wrote some comics, so he understands from an executive standpoint where he was writing a lot of comics. That's not saying other executives haven't been writing comics,
Right.
but I think he understands the real grind of getting things done. And I think Chris has done some indie stuff with Ashley Wood, I believe.
Yep.
And so that stuff is very much important, where I think he understands the grind, and it's just a different animal completely. And obviously, I'm not too sure. I think Chris started another comic company, so I think he left IDW.
Yep.
And me and him were supposed to do something, but then he left. And just obviously that channel, probably sometime in 2022, I'll hit him up.
Yeah.
But very, very interesting. But that's a big tangent, which is what we do on this show now.
Yeah. No, but I mean, honestly, but I really, I have nothing but respect for him, because I will say this too, and this is, that was one of the things I kind of said on our thing with him, is that, he even though like things didn't work out for me to end up doing something, especially like it totally sucked, because he really liked Pistol Fist. When it originally came out, he actually had originally sent me a message and said how much he enjoyed it. And so that was one reason why I had kind of had that connection and made that connection. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And he was a really nice guy, and we kept talking a little bit back and forth. And anyways, even though things didn't work out for me personally, I actually was able to introduce like different artists and other people to IDW, who they did hire. And they apparently, I was kind of like not a huge numbers, but I mean, I would say 4 or 5, maybe 6 people over the years that I was able to introduce and say, hey, this person's really talented, they get stuff done. And at least kind of introduce them and get stuff to work out there. And I mean, that was really cool. And if he had never contacted me again, like a lot of them, I mean, I never would have done that. And I wouldn't have had also just, when he was super cool about, well, this is the head of the art department. This is so-and-so. This is, and it helps when Pistol Fist was about history, because a lot of them tend to be fans of history, which is just really interesting. There is this weird thing in comics. Not with everybody, but there are quite a few people in comics that are history fans or history buffs. And that was one of the actually really grateful things that I had when it originally came out, was there all of the people writing reviews and kind of different things for Diamond at the time, and previews were big history buffs. So they actually gave me a spotlight or something like that every issue of previews that came out, which obviously helps your sales and stuff too. So that's why, I mean, I don't take any of that for granted. But I also did the grind of I literally, if I could not call a comic store, I emailed them or whatever. Like looked at the list of every comic store in the world, and man, you got to do stuff like that if you're an independent person, and because you never know what's gonna happen. I mean, we actually had a few orders from like a comic store in Germany because of that, and one's in like France, and one's in I think like even like I want to say Taiwan and Vietnam and some things like
The
that.
fine country of Taiwan, the John
Yeah,
Cena approved country of Taiwan.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, so there's but you don't know unless you put it out there. Another good reason for people that are hesitating on Kickstarters, great reason to put it on Kickstarters, because people will see you and they see your stuff. If you just wait, you won't. Like, I know people that have gotten agents and publishing deals and other things just because they put their stuff up there.
Oh, we're going to talk about that too, because
Yeah.
we all know how I feel about that. And unfortunately, I'm a very, very pessimistic person, which means I'm always right. But that's not the point here. but we'll talk about that to the back and for everybody watching.
That's okay.
You'll all feel and understand my logic in a few minutes, and you realize why I'm right and everybody else is wrong. But that's neither here nor there. Obviously, you tabling the agents and putting stuff on Kickstarter because I do want to pick the brain on that.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk a little bit about Pistol Fist because it is about history, and I think that's something that's very cool where it's historical fiction, but sometimes, and obviously, nobody has an electricity laser beam as their hand. I'm making that crystal clear.
Yeah.
That is the fiction part of this. I want to make that crystal clear.
Yeah, but they did come out like a couple of years, and it was funny because I swear, oh my gosh, everybody and their brother sent me this when it came out. But they did find, like, it was like 2 or 3 years after Pistol Fist came out was when they found it was in one of the journals of like one of the British uh generals or something, where he was writing down that he was afraid, that they believed that Benjamin Franklin had invented an electricity gun that he had supplied to the rebels. Not that they actually saw it; they just thought they were just rumors. And so it's so funny because then, yeah, like, and this is like 2 or 3 years after Pistol Fist came out, and everybody's like sending me this thing. They're like, oh, "Did you see?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, it's kind of a logical, it's a logical leap to take that they might have thought that, um, since they knew." And it's like, and he was, before the war started, he was an ambassador in England, so it's not like they didn't know what was going on with Ben Franklin. But yeah, but there's a lot of fascinating stuff with that.
To even go into that, because one of the things that obviously we're dealing with a lot of history,
Yeah,
and we're dealing with Crispus Attucks, or
Attucks. I mean, however you say it, Attucks.
I'm just
Yeah,
not familiar with the
yeah,
name, that's why I'm
yeah,
hesitant.
yeah,
Who was a real, slave, got
yeah,
killed.
yeah,
Obviously, I mean, this is, root of American history,
yeah.
and at the Boston Massacre, a significant part of the Revolutionary War, because whether, there's debate on what really started, what really
Right,
happened. I think it's safe to say the Boston Massacre was on the road to the Revolutionary War. And
yeah,
that's me being
yeah,
extremely generous, because obviously when you have a big issue coming out and people die,
yeah,
and whether you determine, however you determine it, a life is a life.
right,
In this circumstance, obviously people get pissed, and then you also have Benjamin Franklin, you have William Franklin, you have, obviously a fictitious character in Salem who is based off of two slaves that I think Peter Salem and Salem Poor,
yep,
both who I believe were soldiers and fought in war, obviously
yeah,
opposing the British, clearly opposing the British,
right,
and, tyrannical rule. And what is this like? Because obviously a lot of history is put into this, and when you're dealing with history and using history as a base, and then taking certain leaps and, I
right,
guess, positions with it, but also being respectful to it, because it is tricky.
right,
Because you portray certain characters in a certain way, people are going to get upset. People say this isn't real. People are also going to take it less serious once they
yeah,
understand the history behind it. And then, well, you only have your name. And if you're saying, hey, I want this because you wrote this book, want it to be taken somewhat serious in
yeah,
this. Just
yeah,
right.
yeah. Me too. So, yeah, yeah, and more, and that's why I didn't want to totally, especially because there aren't that many people that know, unless you're really into it, that really know a lot of the different stories and the stuff behind, like, in the American Revolution. So it's not like I could just do an alternate history version that was totally different and said, "Oh, well, this happened, but what if this happened?"
You couldn't do Uber for the Revolutionary War. I don't know
Right.
if you know the Uber comic.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's stuff like that. There's like, no, I'd rather stay as in a lot of, that's why I tried to stay. That's why I really like the term that some people use, of heightened, because a lot of it is, it's like it's based on the same ideas. It's just kind of exaggerated more in a bigger way, in a larger way, sometimes in a symbolic way. There's things that happen and that we have in it that is really, like, even the fact that anybody that knows anything about Fort Ticonderoga knows that the cannons there kind of played a key role even later, after the and that fort played a role of just kind of switching hands a couple times during the Revolution. But at one point, they even one of the colonial generals or colonels or something actually did this long trek to go to back to Fort Ticonderoga to get cannons and actually take the cannons from the fort to bring it to this other battle. So cannons are like a key thing. So I have a giant cannon there that is kind of like a it's a massive version of the thing that of the device that Pistol Fist has on his arm, and showing that the thing on his arm was just kind of like they were just testing it, and that was just kind of the smaller version of what they wanted to do. They wanted to develop this other big thing, see if they could use that, and but just with that, there's a lot of things like that where it's like we take those different ideas and different things, and then just make them bigger, kind of point it. And honestly, that's one reason why I did want to go exaggerate quite a bit to help make it clear that okay, yeah, clearly this is not real history of what happened, because this is this is not what it is. This is more of like, I don't know, like the Mummy film franchise or something where it's like really exaggerated, kind of steampunky, kind of like whatever, that goes out there. And that's one of the reasons why we did put in the back, because a lot of the history is fascinating, why in the back of each issue. And probably going to try to do it a little different with this graphic novel version, but we had fact and fiction pages that really talk about like what the real history is, what the stuff is that we made up, and like why.
So to even talk about this, because one of the things is that I've read history books, I've read, biographies, I've read autobiographies, I've read, obviously, I'm a huge, and for those who don't know, I have a connection with the Naval Press Institute and their graphic novel division, excuse me.
Yeah.
And they do Dead Reckoning, and they do books like the Winston Churchill biography that came out. It is the greatest Winston Churchill biography. There's like I think like 1,207 Winston Churchill biographies. There's never been a graphic novel version of that one. It's like the 1208th version. And I should reach out to the guy who the team that did it.
Yeah.
But they've also done like Four Fisted Tales, which is Ben Towell's book, and they've done a bunch of other stuff. They've done stuff on FDR, and I have a good relationship with them. And the point I'm trying to make is that some of the stuff they do is historical fiction. Some of it is, real. And then like Four Fisted Tales is an anthology about all the animals that have served. I have a new appreciation for rats.
Yeah.
Apparently, they are the world's greatest mine detectors. Go figure that one out. Also, dolphins are not your friends. I'm going to leave it at that. Dolphins are mean, and they are killers. Dolphins have killed more people than sharks have. That is a fact. And if you want to fact check me on that, please do, because you will be like, you're right. It's sick what dolphins have done. But the reason why I bring this up is that when with Dead Reckoning, when they have historical fiction, a lot of the time I'm getting more of the history than if I was reading it straight up as history and as it really happened. And same thing with a book like Uber, with Curran, I forget his name, and Kanan White that did the first few. And it's the idea that, showing the Nazis and superhumans, and, you get more what World War II looked like than anything else I've ever read. As graphic novel, because I'm like, oh, this is what a battle looks like. This is what chaos looks like. This is what trench warfare looks like. And so that's something I think is very important, because while I understand there's not mega electricity cannons being shot out, I'm saying, okay, this is what a regiment looks like. This is what New York looks like. This is what soldiers look like. This is what the atmosphere was like. This is what it means, and Benjamin Franklin dealing with the fact that his son is going against him. And he's loyal to the colonies, and it's this issue of freedom versus personal sacrifice, and your kid hates you. I mean, it's a very complicated thing, and I think that is pretty well documented, their relationship.
Yeah, but but if you're not into history, most people don't know about it, and that was one of the reasons why I did want to include. I mean, I wanted to include it because of of the technological side. Because who else am I going to have making a electricity cannon? But but at the same time, it's like yeah, there's so much drama with his family, especially with this son, and just being just on the side of the British throughout the whole war, and even afterwards, and even moving to England, and there's just yeah, it's just and really, and there's things with that I kind of dealt with, because one of the things that they England very much, one of the ways they were trying to control Ben Franklin was by trying to control his son, and that's why they made him a governor. That's why they set him up with a really powerful girl to marry. I mean, they were trying to use his son or his family against him, and they did that with some other people too, but especially
See, the
Franklin.
mistake the British made is they should have given him New York, not
Yeah,
New Jersey.
not New Jersey.
That's the whole problem.
Yeah,
I mean, if we had a time machine and we were, citizens of the great, country,
yeah,
the Royal UK, and they were paying us good money, we would fix that problem.
yeah, yeah,
I'm just saying, New Jersey, New York. I mean, which one do you choose? It's a pretty obvious answer.
yeah, yeah.
But then again, you're not in California, right?
No, no, no. I'm in Florida.
Good, 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 good. I could tell this joke then. So New Jersey got all the trash and California got all the lawyers. Who chose first?
I'm guessing California.
New Jersey chose first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I could tell that joke.
I figured the punchline was California. I just chose the wrong way to go with it.
See. The whole point is that even still, though, if they had to choose between California, New Jersey, and New York, obviously we all know there are only
Yeah.
two correct answers. There's one wrong one. But anyway, continue. About one of our founding fathers, and the fact that we just destroyed one of the colonies and completely threw it under the bus.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was
Completely
you,
just
not
threw
me.
New Jersey under the bus. No question about it. And my audience just got cut in half.
I'm not going to go against New Jersey because my wife was born there, so I have to be careful. What
Oh, I
I say
see. I
about
see.
New
That's why you
Jersey.
chose California. You were trying to save your marriage.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, no, there's just yeah, I mean, there's just so much stuff that like people don't know. It's like, man, it's like if you can, I mean, that's been one of the kind of cool things is because of that, and because of those fact and fiction pages, we've actually had a lot of people that were interested, and I mean, not a ton, but there's been a few, like history teachers or college professors or whatever, who kind of like brought up or showed some of their students like Pistol Fist, or talked about it, and mainly just, and obviously they all have a different interest, a different, whatever the thing is, um but they, it's been interesting seeing the way that stuff has been used too. But like you said, the one of the things I did want to do was, and I'm not really a gore fan at all, but I did want to show the violence of war in it. So we do show those some of that kind of stuff, because it's like if you don't show it, then it's like you're not showing the horror of war, and how terrible it can be. And I mean, to me, it's almost like disrespectful to soldiers and stuff if you don't, if you don't even try to express the hell that they've gone through, and the pain of seeing somebody, shot and killed right next to you or whatever. But
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and then obviously I don't want to ruin too much of what happens. And there's 96 pages, so as I like to call it, you could call it a graphic novel. I call it a one shot.
yeah,
We could agree to disagree. It's a nicely bound one shot. I'm the first person to
yeah,
say it. I call this a mini graphic novel too. I'm just saying that's how I view it. No, no, no,
Yeah,
no, no, no,
that's
no.
fine.
I could think you could have a nicely bound one shot. I think
Oh
Killing Joke
yeah.
is not a graphic novel.
Oh
Killing
yeah.
Joke is a nicely bound hardcover book in reality,
Yeah.
and it's the deluxe edition. Great book. You should have one in your collection if you're a comic collector. You
Yeah.
not the comic, but the actual graphic novel. You should have that book on your shelf if you read comics or write comics. It's brilliant. The point is that I don't consider Killing Shot a graphic novel.
Right.
I don't care if it's a hardcover book. I don't care if it's plated in gold. It's not it's a comic book. It is not a
Yeah.
graphic novel. I don't consider anything less than 120 pages to be a graphic novel. I consider things to be nicely bound, professionally bound, beautifully bound, and
Right.
respectfully bound. I have Zenoscope showcase books that are square bound. They
Yeah.
are a square bound comic. They are beautiful. It is a $75 to $100 book.
Yeah.
And it is a personal book. It is beautiful. There's 75 of them in the world. It is super exclusive. The point I'm trying to make is that I don't consider that, though, to be a graphic novel, even though it shares characteristics with one.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's any less valuable. That's just how I view it, and I get flack for it, and that's fine. I will take my bruises as I see fit. If you feel free that you need to leave now, I understand completely.
I don't really care about that stuff. It's more of just I mean, especially man, I've done so many 120 to 132 or 300 page graphic novels. It's like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah. For this
even.
little company called Tokyo Pop.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it doesn't. But the I will say, see now you. That's what. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. So
Oh,
if
question to me
yeah,
now.
question for you. So for you, because I will say and this is something I'm considering because I when it's been released before, only the very first time when I collected the whole thing, which was really like only available for a month before Darren called me up and said, "Hey, we want to do it. You got to stop printing it. You got to stop self-publishing it." It's like because we don't want any more of them out there. Like we want to do our own thing and do the individual issues. But I got rid of. Um, I didn't have any chapter breaks in it. I just had the whole thing straight. Um, and but a lot of people or a lot of things will do, you know, where they'll put like a cover or they'll put like chapter one, chapter two, or like whatever. Do you have a preference of stuff like that? If it's a
Oh, see,
if it's a collected, but it's really like one story, like you're saying, it's kind of like a one shot, but it was originally presented in a comic
this
book
is tough.
form. Would you does it depend on the particular story, or would you
So for me, so let's say that you have a 6 issue graphic novel, and I'm going to start
right,
there with how
right.
I feel. So I'm right now reading Black Sail from Zenoscope on my iPad on Comixology, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it because who doesn't love space pirates? You know,
Did you read that one?
I did not read that one.
By my buddy Kevin Gribio.
Yeah, well, let me
It's
ask you a
awesome,
question.
man. Oh, so good.
Yeah. I know Kevin did it. It's just
Good.
there's only so much money going around, and these
Yeah,
companies don't throw me bones.
yeah,
Shocking, right?
yeah.
These companies don't throw me bones, and I'm breaking my back for shit. And if people actually fucking hit me up, then it'd be nice. But I digress. It's actually on sale today, like for like 50% off, which is crazy on
Uh,
Zenoscope.com. Till midnight, guys. You got 2 hours to go buy that book for half off. Look at me. I'm selling Zenoscope books for
I
them
was gonna say
right now without them even asking. Um, they should send me comps. But anyway,
they really should.
I haven't. The funny thing is that they could send me as much comps as they want because I haven't written anything for them. See, that's why it's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
They should say, absolutely, Andrew. We will send you all the comps to your books. We will 100% send you comps to your books that you have done for us. Totally. It'd be a no-brainer for them to answer that question, yes. But as far as chapter breaks, so I enjoy, with stories that, because it's kind of like it goes back to the face smile position or fast smile or whatever we call that,
Right, right.
where are you going to be publishing it? Because this is where it gets interesting is that as its original format, or is it updated, or are you trying to create a new product? Because that's what it comes down to in a
Right.
lot of ways. And maybe I'm thinking like a marketer at this point,
Yeah.
where it comes down to the idea is this a new product? Is this just a graphic novel? Is this supposed to be how it's supposed to be originally read? Or because you could throw those original covers and then subsequent covers at the back of the book in a cover gallery.
Right. Yep.
You could go create a cover gallery as a bonus, as an unlockable or an add-on if you really wanted to as well. Yeah. So the question is that, you know, and that comes down to what you want to do. You know, I'm going to read your book no matter which way you do it. It's just a matter of, do you want to treat it as a new product, just a reprinting of a product, or somewhat of a hybrid, or do you feel that it should be, you know, presented in its original format, you know, because that's what the message you want to get clear, and that you feel that the cover work should be tied to each issue to respect it in its original format. And that's another thing that people do as well, where if I was to write a 4 or 8 or 24-page position in a graphic novel and kickstart it, I might want to tie the issues to their book because I feel like the issue earned its cover, for instance. And it's complicated. I know it's an inanimate object, and this concept might sound foreign to people. And I'm willing to say, hey, look, it very well could be, but that's how I do it.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, because a lot of times too, differently than most of than a lot of the larger companies, like most of the indie companies put the credits like on the inside front cover. So that part's kind of like almost like a throwaway, like, because it's not. So it's like, well, how much do I want in between? But I have another question for you too. I'll see what you think about this. I have a feeling, since you're so negative, you probably hate it. But so are you familiar? In your, I can just hear the profanity coming. Are you familiar with the oh gosh, and now I'm forgetting his name. The guy that's been overseeing all the X-Men stuff. Jonathan Hickman. Are you familiar with his info pages that he sticks in some of his comics, where it's like it'll have stuff, and then you have like it's like a 2-page spread, but it's like diagrams, or it's like different things, like showing the.
I know what an info page is. I know what a graph page is. I know what like a blueprint page is. All that.
Yeah, where they put it in the middle. Where they put it in the middle of the story, though, because he does that a lot.
That's interesting.
He does a lot, and a lot of times he'll do it because he's trying to like he wants to. Like me personally, I kind of like it because it's like you're not forcing a bunch of exposition and a bunch of explanatory stuff into the story where it might not really fit. So like if you just want people to know, oh, hey, this family tree has been around for a long time, and these are the people who are in it, like just putting it on like it's like.
So that's actually really interesting. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel on that.
See, I like it because I feel like if you want to read it, you can. If you don't, you can just pass right by.
I've seen something very different, and this is my counter, where I saw somebody put a bunch of information at the front of a book.
Yeah, because a lot of people do the back, but yeah.
I've seen it at the front, and then the reason why is they say, look, you could skip this, go right ahead. Here's a bunch of information that you don't need, but can be helpful. And I've seen that, and it's almost like a prequel, and it's so interesting. And because all of a sudden, if you understand, but it also changes the way you read the book. And even having an infographic in the middle changes the way you read the book. And this is where I'm at sometimes. In some books, I don't want to know how things are made. I don't really want to see all this stuff that wasn't in the book, or all the artwork that was like mock-ups or drafts. Like sometimes I'm like, look, I don't really care. But at the same time, you know, I'm reading a lot of the WWE books right now on Boom, and they have all the cool covers and many infographics, but I want to see those covers because I'm like, oh man, let me go on eBay and let me see what I can afford now. Like, because I'm obviously a WWE fan and I like their cover art, and I've actually done that. and it
Yeah.
actually made me spend money. I've
Right.
spent a little too much money, to be honest, and some of the stuff I can't afford. That I've done, but it's convinced me on certain things, and I have a lot of those covers too already. But it's interesting. I don't know how I'm going to feel, and I don't know.
And I'll
So
tell you, because like, okay, so like on like, because I put the fact and fiction pages at the end. So when you finish the story, the issue, this is I'm just saying this is the way it was. But then at the end, it'll have like we did like probably like 8 different questions or something, and then like a couple of them might be about Ben Franklin, a couple of them might be about Crispus Attucks, a couple of them might be about like other things. And but my thinking is, um, would it be interesting to, instead of putting it at the end and expect people to remember everything that they just read, would it be more interesting that when we introduce something or there is a character or something like that, then put those then put those like put slip those pages in right there, like right afterwards, not on the same page, because I don't necessarily want to distract.
it gets tricky because I don't know if it's going to mess up the flow of the book.
Right.
and,
Right.
and that's where things go. So interviewing, it has a flow, and I spent a lot of time as an interviewer, and this is what I think people, and this is just how I view it, and I would imagine
Yeah.
comic writing is similar. I haven't written a comic at all at this point, and I don't know if I'm ever, because there's a lot of other things going on.
Right.
But there's a flow, and I can tell you, and you've read books, and I've read books that have no flow to them. I've
Yeah.
read books on the indie front that I'm like, how is this even a fucking book? It has no flow to it.
Yeah.
And it's disturbing. It messes me up. And I'm like, man, this book has no flow. It's got no character. It's got no roughness to it. It's got no heart to it, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And so as an individual, that could very well mess up the flow. And I don't know if it would or wouldn't. It might actually increase the flow. It's the idea that, personally, I probably wouldn't like it, just because I don't mind issue break, because that doesn't disrupt flow as
Yeah.
much as a fact page, because now I'm reading.
Right.
And I had this complaint about Scott Snyder's book, and he shot me a DM about it. I'm like, dude, like, I still bought all 3 of them, man. It's just my problem with AD After Death, was that we had comic, and then we had like 3 pages of prose, and then we had comic, and we had 3 pages of prose. And I'm like, I wrote a harsh review on that thing. I mean, I took an axe to it. Like, that's probably one of the harshest things I've ever written about. And the other thing is Man-Eaters, and I couldn't even write a review on Man-Eaters. That's how much I hated Man-Eaters, by Chelsea Kane. I think it was one of her worst works that she's ever touched.
Yeah.
I think that's not a political statement. I just did not get it. It did not work for me. And I mean, I legitimately sat for 6 hours trying to figure out how to write a review on that thing, and I couldn't write it.
It looks good.
That's when I can't write a bad review on something.
Yeah.
Chances it not because it's good, but because it's that bad. I didn't get the concept. So that's where my concern is with this, is that, is the prose element of this going to mess it up? Because when I read a comic, I want a fucking comic. And I'm not even trying to be negative. I'm being very, very open about it.
I think I will say I think in because Hickman is kind of a cerebral guy. I think that it works better probably when you're reading something that is more intellectual or cerebral, to have something like that in there. Because that was one of the things I was thinking too, was that this has like a rhythm to it, and and like you want that momentum, and like I specifically wrote it that way.
I could give you a book that it'll work well with.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Matt Hawkins fan.
Yeah.
I love Think Tank. I love everything Matt Hawkins touches.
Yep.
And this will work because if he's talking about Metal Storm, for instance, Metal Storm, for everybody before they get all angry, is a declassified weapon. We can talk about it. Nobody's going to jail for this.
Yeah.
These are not the hydrogen Pentagon papers. I want to make that crystal clear. But if he was explaining Metal Storm right after Metal Storm was introduced in it, I don't know if Metal Storm was actually in Think Tank. It's been a while, but Metal Storm is a fair example for it.
Right.
If I wrote a comic where Metal Storm was being introduced, Metal Storm is a anti-missile weapon that basically shoots shrapnel into an oncoming missile so that it shoots it down into the water. And obviously, a missile exploding in the water and not hitting your ship's a good thing.
Yeah.
And they were installed all throughout, I think, the late 80s and early 90s. And now it's declassified. It's a pretty good weapon, defense system. But I'm not going to tell you the other application used for Metal Storm because I don't want the FBI knocking on my door tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which I think would be hilarious. That'd be like my next episode for a special edition of Conversations About Culture. We have FBI agent so and so.
Yeah.
How are you doing today? Would be the episode if I explain how to use Metal Storm in the most broken way ever. But I digress. But I think it works with that really well. I think so. I don't know because and I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to
no. I think it is. It is like if it's more complicated like that. I think those kinds of things
because I
work better for.
This could work technically in between issues or chapter breaks.
Right.
So like explaining like I'm trying to remember parts of Pistol Fist. It's been a while since I've read it. But obviously even how his circuitry with his electric cannon
and stuff like that. Yeah.
I think that could be dropped at the end of issue 2, in between issues 2 and 3. But I don't think when the surgery happens and what they do to Samuel, or Salem, I don't think that makes sense right after the Vector 2 pages later, because I think it's going to mess up the flow. I think people are just going to sort of miss it because they're going to be like, "What the fuck's this?" So that's my opinion on this. But again, I am not the expert on this, and I think it would have to be tested. I really think that would be tested, and I would have to read it. So if you did it and then you made like 2 or 3 versions,
right?
I would read it and I would say, "Oh yeah, this works. This doesn't work," and then I would send it to a few other people. Obviously Mike Barron probably is a good person to read it. I don't know if you know Ozzy Longoria. He's probably a good person to read it. And then I don't know if you know Travis Gibb by any chance. He's probably another good person to read it. And those are, I mean, I'm not the expert. I'm probably not. I just want to read it, just to read it.
But I'm always interested in what the readers think and everything too.
Because I'm very different than the other 3 that I just mentioned, where I've never written a comic, I've never illustrated a comic.
Right.
But I obviously have been doing this shit for a while, and I read a lot of comics. I speak to a lot of creators, and I'm also a consumer, and I'm also a very picky consumer.
Right.
On that front, and I also view it from an investment position, where I'm like both on my time, because I don't know how many people understand where I'm at as a human being, is that I legitimately have maybe 10 hours of free time a week.
Right.
And so if I'm going to sit down and read your book for an hour, you better fucking earn my dollar.
Right.
Because I have limited funds and I have limited time.
Right.
And when books suck, and I have friends who I'm like, I read your first 2 issues, and man, I can't back your project anymore because it's bad. I'm very open about it. I'll interview you all you want, but you're not earning my money. And it's friendship goes a long way, but it doesn't go that long. That's how I feel, honestly. I'm being interviewed on my show by somebody, and they're going to interview me on this show. And I'm sure we're gonna have like a 2-3 hour discussion. It's gonna be. I hope Ben's ready for it, because he's got to bring his A game, and it's gonna be. He's got to do his homework on who I am. Because, we're talking me 12 years in, doing a bunch of crazy shit, and I'm looking forward to that. It's December 10th, I think around 7 or 7:30, or possibly 8 o'clock, and it's gonna be a wild interview if he brings his A game. And I'm looking forward to it. And if it's bad, I'll delete it after a week. So I can't lose.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mixum's going to be happy with me after that interview, but that's okay. I think they'll be fine with everything. I think I get one pass a round. We just completed round 1 with them, and they're on round 2. You're officially the first person on round 2 with Mixum. So congratulations to me. But Anyway, I do want to talk about rewards here, since we're talking about all this fun stuff. Obviously, hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, because well, you were making me think too, because I was thinking back to when I
I tend to do
originally
this a
did
lot
it.
with people.
When I,
I like
yeah,
making people think.
when I originally did that, when I originally published it myself, I didn't have anything in between because I specifically wrote it to be connect to be compiled together. So like one scene, so I always end with one scene and then open with a different scene. So when you put it all together, it just goes back and forth, and it has great momentum when you read it like that. And I was never super crazy about when the breaks were in it. Some of it was I just didn't like the font and the way that the publisher laid
Because
it out.
the whole thing is that, for me, it's that there is a concept of oversaturation. you
Yeah,
know just to even go further into my background, I used to do a lot of presentations on anime,
right.
and there was this presenter who I used to look up to, who now I think is not that great, is not that insightful. And I went to one of his presentations, and man, in 45 minutes, he just kept piling and piling and piling. And it was
Yeah,
fascinating, talking about Japanese spirits and a variety of other stuff.
right.
Anybody in the anime world who knows Japanese spirits,
Yeah.
and I'm
Oh yeah.
like, it's cool, and it's a cool topic to talk about the gods of Japan. Super interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But like 45 minutes in, and we're done, and I'm like, oh my God, like there's way too much content. And
Yeah.
then I go and I build my Osamu Tezuka panel, and I'm like, man, I'm doing video clips, and
Yeah.
I'm going basic. And in 45 minutes, I'm leading people to the water. I'm giving them a little bit of the water. I'm making jokes. It's lighthearted, but people come out there saying, I remember this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And so I don't oversaturate people, but I give them really cool facts. Like
Yeah.
Asam Tezuka was the president of the Japanese Superman Club. That's a cool fact,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because you look at this and how Tezuka was raised up. I mean, what
Yeah.
is Astro Boy?
Yeah.
Astro Boy. People compare Goku to Superman. No, no, no,
Yeah.
that's not a fair comparison. It is
Right.
Astro Boy to
Yeah.
Superman. If you go back to the Fleshers, it is Superman from Max Flesher and the Flesher Studios to
Mm.
Astro Boy. And there is no Goku in that picture. And the fact that people don't even know that is a
Yeah.
problem. People don't know that Tezuka grew up watching Bambi and Superman.
Yeah.
And so I go back to this idea with where oversaturation, and every panel that I've done has been so lighthearted that
Yeah.
and it's been undersaturated. Like I have a panel called The Three Pillars of Sports Anime and Their Counterparts. There's 6 shows we're talking about. There
Right.
is beyond content in there where every other show that is in sports anime is derivative and derived from those 6, from those
Right.
3. There are 3 shows you need to watch as a sports anime fan, and there are 3 counterparts. And I could go and drop 50 shows into something.
Right.
I mean, I can go do it, and I can fit them in. I mean, I work in threes. I have a panel talking about Attack on Titan and The Walking Dead and Fahrenheit 451. I'm working on
Yeah.
a secondary panel that deals with 3 other things, and there's a reason why it's built that way for
Yeah.
lack of oversaturation. And I
Yep.
think people don't understand why I do it that way, because you can overkill me, and then I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that you got to know where the line is,
Yeah.
and and I'm not even trying to be negative, because obviously I want this to do well, and I want people to
Right.
enjoy it, but I don't want people to say, "What the fuck's this in this middle of the book?" Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, getting to rewards here. After that,
Yeah.
hopefully I wasn't too negative. Hopefully it
No.
wasn't
No.
too
No.
negative.
No.
No, not my intention. Hopefully I wasn't, and if I was, well, I don't know what to tell everybody. I got nothing for you, and don't quote Jeff Probst on that.
Yeah.
Survivor 41. It's intense, man. It's intense lately. I gotta say that show was wild. The
Yeah.
40th season was good, and the 41st season it's a close second. Season 39 was a disaster.
My wife has been binge watching them all lately, so I'm hearing them all as I do other stuff.
Season 39 was cringy at
Yeah.
best. At best.
Yeah.
Good. It was not good. It was bad. When real problems come into Survivor, it's a rough season.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, talking about rewards, obviously you got your rights back, which means you can do whatever the hell you want to do with this project.
Yeah.
And you have the digital stuff going on with it. So that is the digital,
Yep.
and stole straight off of your
Yeah.
Kickstarter page. So we
Oh,
have it
nice.
as a PNG file.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think it's what, like 15, I want to say?
10. I want to say 10 for the digital.
Okay, it's
It could
10
be.
for the
It might
digital.
be 15. I try to do. I try to do 10 for the digital, but
So it's pretty self-explanatory. It's digital. You're paying no shipping. It's going to be sent to you in an email,
right. Yeah.
and
And
that's
I will say that I have had people, and I've been getting used to doing a lot of different ebook formats, mainly for people that I help put some like books and things together of like prose books. So I can one of the things I did put I don't think it's I don't remember. I put it somewhere in there that I can do other formats other than just PDF too. I can do the
hey,
Mobi and all
Adobe.
those things too.
I'm going to just say this: in my job, I make documents accessible. That's what I'm learning how to do. I'm going to be
Yeah.
getting a CPA CC.
Nice.
I don't want to make a comic book accessible because it sort of defeats the point of a comic book.
Right.
But Adobe is a monster of a tool.
Yeah.
So Adobe is a beast. But there are other formats, and I'm sure that if somebody wants another format, you probably can do that very easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And I don't know what other formats there are out there, but there's things out there.
Yeah, there's Mobi, EPUB, and a couple other. It depends on what device they have, if it's a Kindle or like something else. So, I mean, yeah. So that's why I made that available because I have had people ask for that before too. So I'm like, I'm just gonna go ahead and make it
I don't know
available.
anything about that, so I have no question for it because
Yeah, no, it's fine.
something that
It's
I've
not a big
made.
deal.
I have an iPad, and I don't read comics that from Kickstarter on
Yeah,
my iPad. I don't. I read them on my computer.
yeah,
It's much easier. I have a Mac, and why wouldn't I do it? And they're all in a nice little file on my Mac.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then every year, I move them to my hard drive, and I start over, and it's great. Don't delete them. Start over the new folder, and then I continue.
yeah.
It's a good system, you know.
Yep,
Got to keep it fresh, and then when I want to read it again, I'll just pull it up on my hard drive. It's great.
yep.
But then going forward, obviously we've got Joe Robinson. I believe he did this one,
Yep. The one on the left.
and then obviously I believe OMG
Yep.
did the other one on this one,
Yeah.
and then obviously we have Rob Richardson, and I don't know how to say the other person's name. So
Go ahead, give it a shot.
I don't want to. It's Cardolcelli, I want to say.
Francesco
See,
Tomatoli.
okay, let me
He's Italian.
explain. I probably would have got the name. It's just that it auto-corrected, or what
Yeah.
happens when I was typing and
Yeah.
I had a C and not an F, and that's why I didn't know.
Yeah.
I should have
Yeah.
known that. It's just that, like, you know what it is? Legitimately, if I share at some point my entire thing, it was a C, and that's why I was all messed up. But obviously, very, very, he did a bunch of cool stuff.
He's a watercolor comic artist too. He does a lot of really cool stuff.
He's been in it for like forever.
Oh
Is
yeah.
he working on Mike Tenner's or Teener's book?
Yeah, I mean, he's done a bunch of different stuff. He just recently, I think they just recently released the Space Cadet one, but he did yeah, he usually does like really mega violent, very like I'm like, man, he should be doing comics for Warhammer. Like, cuz that is like totally his style. But we do actually have he actually is doing one of my stories for my Nemo the Lad comic that I'm doing. That's more like an all ages thing, but we also have a post-apocalyptic thing in the works that we're gonna be doing.
And then obviously this is retro, and then new retro.
Yeah, I made that.
Yeah, I know.
I did my best Kirby impression.
And so that's kind of cool, going new retro, old retro,
Yeah.
and then obviously this is sort of the 15th anniversary edition cover that's going a bit old school. And
That's the interior artist, and that was the first picture of Pistol Fist he ever drew.
And so obviously that's something that's Andres Giulianaldo, I want to say, or
Guinaldo.
Gonaldo.
He's
Again,
you know what, he did a bunch of Justice League Dark, and he also has been on the Blade Runner comic that's been going for a while now from
yeah,
IDW.
Titan and Blade Runner. Which one? Like 2021 or 2019?
He did both. He did both. 2021 and 2020, I think was the, or 2019 was the other one.
There's like a new one now. It's
Yeah.
kind of
There is another one, and the other one that does not have the number is not the one that he did, but there's two different series that had numbers, and he did both of those.
so obviously a lot of cool stuff is going on with that, and then obviously you have the Revolutionary War. I believe this is sort of the anthology written stuff that's going on.
This is the hardcover version. Doing the
I was
hardcover
getting ahead
version
of
of it.
myself.
Yeah. You're jumping ahead.
Clearly.
Yeah, yeah. That's going to be hardcover version. Yep.
And so obviously a hardcover edition is out there for those who want it. And is that one super limited, or is it more just however many
No,
people?
yeah. However many people, it's I think it's $30. Um, but yeah, I tried.
I ask these questions because people do limited hardcover editions,
Right.
super
Yeah.
hardcover editions. And at this stage, I mean, when I'm going through Kickstarter, I see everything.
Right.
I've seen
Oh yeah.
everything. So I
Yeah.
ask because people do things differently, and it's very interesting what people do. So
Yep.
I was just
Yep.
curious.
Yep. Yeah, and we just like I think yesterday added the metal cover that we're doing too. So you might not have even seen that.
Yeah, I probably didn't see that. But then this is the war stories that is
Yeah.
all Crows, I believe, and
Yeah. And I have a lot of different a lot of different writers, comic writers, and other kinds of writers that have bothered me over the years about wanting to write something. And I'm like, okay, fine, we'll do it. It's like I'll go ahead and put something together, and we can. And I kind of have guidelines, and I'm going to go because we're going to try to stay within the Revolutionary War and do like each volume will probably be like a different year of the war, and cover different stuff, and we'll get them into some of those events or characters related to them.
then obviously you're also doing somewhat of a podcast slash audio
Yep.
thing. Obviously, Kevin, yeah, Underworld. I don't know how to say his
Yep.
last name.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say Grevio, but I know that's not how to say it. Grevu. I don't know.
And so obviously that's coming too. And so how did that even come about? Because you do a bunch of podcast stuff.
Yeah, I do a lot of podcast stuff. That was part of it. It was more. I think that was one of the things that started. I was talking about it, and then one of the times, I'm. I don't know if I say friends, but I'm very good acquaintances with Kevin. We do talk at least once a week online, and we will yeah, and we'll kind of bounce things off each other and share different things and talk about different stuff. And then and every once in a while I would bug him, and I was like, okay, when are you gonna? It's like, if I do a Pistol Fist podcast, are you gonna do one of the voices or something? Because he was one of the first ones to give me a really good quote for Pistol Fist when it first began. And we've always been connected ever since then, ever since 2006. And then this past year he said, yeah, I'll do it. He's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay. And then now he's like throwing ideas at me because he's a history buff too and everything. And he's like, well, he's like, and he brought up like one of them Salem. I think it was Salem Poor was the one he brought, not Peter Salem. It could have been the other one, but yeah, one of them he brought up. I was like, well, I named Salem after those two guys. That's why I did that, was to kind of honor those two guys. So, but yeah, so he's been throwing stuff at me. So it'll be interesting because even right now, I'm like, do we retell the original version, the comic version, in a slightly different way because it's more from his perspective? I kind of have Ben Franklin narrate the other one a little bit, not a lot, but like just do that, or do we just move forward and just start telling the new stories, and maybe even use some of the stuff that we're it's going to be in the anthology. I don't know.
Yeah, no. It's very interesting, and obviously, I technically have one podcast and I have one live stream, but this is going to be coming into, a podcast soon, and then I'm building out another podcast that's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a bunch of fun actually, and I got
Cool.
certain things coming down the pike, and it's gonna be a fun experience. And I got that coming, and then
Nice.
with this, when this comes into a podcast, there's going to be secret episodes because everybody has secret retail.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm having secret episodes come out on this show that are not going to be live. They're actually going to be, but I'm not going to tell you when they drop. So you're actually going to have to subscribe to my show. And that's a tidbit that's just dropped unofficially on this show for the one person who's watching. And I thank you for watching that one person. I appreciate it. I appreciate all my viewers. You know.
Oh yeah.
It means a lot when people actually sit and watch this stuff live.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. But yeah, no, that's where I'm going. And then my other thing that I don't want to talk about is going to be fun. And then I got a big project coming out in February, February and early March that is going to change indie comics, and it's going to change it the way I want it. And I'm going to become very, very wealthy off of it. But I digress right there because this is not about me. It's about you. And I'm not telling anybody it's going to drop mysteriously in the night and everybody signs up is going to make a fuck ton of money with me.
Yeah.
It's going to make a fuck ton of money, more money than they understand, because I understand how to make money. If there's one thing I'm good at, I understand how to make money, and I know how to buy expensive things really well. There's only 2 skills I know how to do, and both those skills are going to be utilized nicely. But going forward, obviously, you have a bunch of other stuff where you could get pretty much any extra issues you want as add-ons. You could get CGC stuff, and getting a softcover book CGC'd, which is super interesting actually, because I didn't know you could get softcover books CGC'd.
Yep. Most people don't do it very much, but they actually do that. I don't think that they do hardcover books, but we did actually talk to them, and they said that they do like a certain I don't know, like if there was like a 500-page softcover thing, I don't think that they would do that. But I think if it's like under 150 or something like that, they'll do, because they've actually because they've done trades and stuff that people will bring in or send them. I say bring in because I'm not that far away, and that's one reason why I'm able. My son and I have an account with them, and we're also only about an hour and a half away from CGC, so we can actually make it save people a little bit of money, because we can actually drive there and just drop stuff off without actually having to pay for the mailing. Not like I mean, with the way gas prices are, it might be cheaper to mail.
Well, I mean, I need to go create a comic so I could get a creator's account and then get it. It's ridiculous that I don't get that benefit, but I digress. It's whatever, Again,
my son sells a lot, so yeah, he does that whole thing.
When March comes, CGC is going to come knocking, and I'm going to come countering. So that's all that matters, because when I'm views sell and reach sells and a variety of other things sell, and I'm going to be countering them very nicely with a very different proposition, and they are going to have to say yes. I'm going to make them an offer they cannot refuse. Is where we're going. So obviously that's kind of cool, because obviously CGC stuff is really big and what's going on with that. And obviously everybody is speculating right now in the market. So it's something that is kind of crazy with all of that. So it's something that I think a lot of people are interested in. And, I don't know if you're guaranteeing any grade per se or any grade rate.
No, I mean, it's going to be, I will say, if it doesn't come in pretty high, then I would say we would probably be willing to crack it open and resubmit it and have a discussion with them if we had to, and say, hey, come on, this was just printed.
Because what is pretty high to you? Is it obviously?
I would say 9 or higher. Because when you're talking a brand new book, if it gets below 9, that's kind of crazy. Unless somebody just didn't take care of it.
Usually, I mean, in my experience, a 9.4 or higher on a brand new book, like right
Yeah,
off the presses,
yeah,
is where it has to sit. Like I've seen people do saying, "Hey, look, it's going to be a 9.4 or higher,"
yeah,
just because a nine is rough off of a brand new spanking book.
right.
I mean that's rough, and that's just an off day at
And
CGC. That's happened.
unless Penguin was distributing it.
But I've seen rough days at
Yeah,
CGC, and I've had books that have come back as 9.0s, and I've resubmitted them. They were resubmitted as 9.6s.
right. Yeah,
So CGC does have rough days,
yeah.
and there
Oh
have been
yeah.
batches from cons where the entire fucking batch is fucked up,
Oh yeah.
and it's just like a big Apple con. I was speaking to a bunch of people like, all my books came back rough, and I'm like, mine too. Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck happened here? Like, and it
yeah.
turns out that there was a lot of people who had rough books being submitted, and there's nothing wrong with that. That happens sometimes,
Right.
but it's complicated. But I digress. So obviously, I want to back out of all your rewards. There's a bunch of stuff that people can pick up, and I am super curious though because obviously we tabled this discussion,
Absolutely.
and this is my issue with Kickstarter. I'm curious where you're at. So Kickstarter, I believe, has a sustainability problem.
Yeah. No,
I really
I do. I mean, I don't know. I don't know for them per se, but like, yeah, for me, it's like it's not a sustainable
So,
business model for
my,
creators.
my thought process is the following,
Yeah.
and I get flack for this because the people who realize are very concerned because there's some variance and they're making a lot of money on this. And well, this is what I think is going to happen. I think there is an oversaturation of projects. I think there's an oversaturation of not great projects. I think that people now there are more options for people to do because the world has opened up and it's not closing the fuck back down anytime
Right.
soon. In the United States, it's not. You know, bars are open, movie theaters are open. I've gone to the movie more times now than I've ever gone in my life. You
Wow.
know, and now I'm going places. Cons are happening. You know, there's other variants out there. There's other places where people can spend their money. And well, now on Kickstarter, I think the glory days and the heydays of Kickstarter, they're not over, but they're not the same as when there was nowhere to go.
Right.
People are getting weaned off benefits right now.
Right.
You know, I've received some benefits. A lot of people have received benefits. I'm not going to pretend here everybody's received some stimulus in the
Yeah.
last, 22 months. And I can first say some of that went into Kickstarter money and books.
Right.
So that's where I feel, and I'm well aware. And then also, as I stated, there's just a bunch of projects that I'm like, how did this
Yeah.
book get published? Like, and then to make matters worse, and this is the fear, and this is where I get flack for it, is that what's happening also is that all these places like Scout, Behemoth, Second Sight Publishing, and there's three or four more are signing books from Kickstarter, are not taking any risk on buying the art or doing anything. They're taking their distribution position,
Right.
costs more, and I don't think a bunch of these books are going to make it past issue 3 because I don't think people are going to pick up issue 1 and say, "What the fuck is this book? This makes no sense." I think the shop's going to be stuck with books, and I think that it's going to burn down indie. And that's what I think is going to end indie. I think these places like Scout and Behemoth and a variety of other ones are not actually doing justice, and they're going to burn down shops because shops are going to be stuck, and those books are going to end up in the dollar bin after 6 months. But it's
Right.
not the dollar bin because it's not costing somebody, if they ordered 75 books, $150. It's costing them more, like 150 plus another 300, $450, and plus shelf space. And
Right.
that's what I think these people don't understand when I talk about this issue.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about this issue to be anti-comics. I'm saying your business model is going to kill people and it's going to bankrupt shops because not everything is good. Not everything is going to sell off.
Yeah. I mean, it's a I mean, for creators, I mean, that's why, like, I tell them, it's like you need to do, like, especially if you don't have anything limiting you, it's like you need to do like everything you possibly can, um put it on Webtoons, do Indiegogo, do Kickstarter too. Don't just do one. Try to get try to do everything you can when you own it, so that you can make the most from what you made. I will say too, the other bad thing is with and I personally, like, I love Scout because they were one of the only comic publishers that didn't tuck their head in the sand, and they actually fought to keep going, and started doing all kinds of clever stuff to try to keep going. And but they, like a lot of the indie publishers, and like you said, probably, and it's probably because of Kickstarter and everything else, they went they started doing a lot of one shots. And the problem with that is that most stores do not want one shots, because they want people coming back to the store. Like, that's the whole that's the whole idea of that's what I mean. And I've had a chance now to be talking to even more comic stores, like all over America and stuff, with a lot of different owners and stuff now. And I'm like, and I'll ask them stuff like that, and they'll all say like the same thing, like that they really don't like one shots, because their business really depends on people coming back to the store. So, and if it's only a one shot, it's not tough. It's so that's the but that's a huge investment to be to say, oh, we're going to do 4 issues or whatever for because that's when you're talking professional level, like I said, that's around $6,000 an issue. That's, man, raising that is really tough, to be able to do that professional stuff. That's why I think people need to do as many different things as they can. I do agree with a lot of market people that I've heard, and I do agree. I do think the direct market was probably a mistake, to get it out of the public's eye and put it into its own special little place. Because you just keep limiting your audience, and you keep making it smaller and smaller and more specific and more niche. And it, I mean, to an extent it is, but yeah, I think it's definitely going to be interesting because of coming out of the pandemic, like you said, everything starting to open up again. People have other places they're spending their money. When they're stuck in their house all the time, it's a different story, and collectibles are high. But
also what I feel is that with printing delays and
right,
printing issues, if you're like, oh no, I'm in the queue, but I'm like, look, things are fucked up.
Yeah,
I mean,
we don't have any paper.
Like, Comics Wellspring, I said, oh, we have paper, you're just in the queue, we have this. And I'm like, yeah, well, that might be true, but I know a bunch of people, I've been waiting on books, and I'm an understanding guy, but like, I've been waiting on books since August. Books were supposed to hit me, and now they have come in, and they're going to be shipped out in December, and shipping's more expensive, and a variety of other problems have occurred.
Right.
And so my whole issue now as an individual is that I'm at the stage saying, look, I don't think the real problem is hit yet. I think the real fucking problem is coming in fucking January. And also, me as a reader, what I want, reason why I like places like Midtown is I know for a fact that I order my books, I pick up about 18 books a month, give or take 12 to 18 books, depending on the month. And I know that I have a pipeline. Like that's what I think people don't understand, is that indie's biggest problem for me is you guys don't produce enough content. So I'll give you an example of how this should work. You produce a book. I know your book's coming out in January. Then I have Travis. He gets me a book in February. Then I have somebody else gets me a book in March. And then somebody else gets me a book in April. And then you come back and get me in May. Now, all of a sudden, I know that I am on a 12-person rotation. And that's what the issue is. So I know I'm never, ever more than 3 or 4 months out away from you and your next project. But a lot of you can't do that. And I get it. I understand why. That's hard.
Right.
I'm not here to beat you up. I don't know how much content you produce every single week, but I produce 4 shows a week.
Right.
And I have a content overload. Like, I cannot market my content efficiently enough because I'm producing a fuck ton of content. And that's why some of my content is not maximized to the fullest. But I'm also producing a fuck ton of content.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm producing 180 interviews a year, give or take. Now,
Yeah.
that's a lot of content. The fact that, like, I mean, obviously I haven't gotten, you know, some people like you have gotten, but I also hit a lot of indie. I'm hitting a lot more people who are mainstream now, and I'm everywhere in between, and it's complicated. So, like, that's my problem with indie, is that it's also that I feel that there's not enough content being created. And then it's also money, and then it's also, you know, if you're delayed by 6 months, I don't want your book now. There's books I don't want that are coming. I'm like, I don't want your fucking book now. I'm not going to read your book. I'm not interested. I lost interest. There's a book, you know, and the problem is that it's a cyber, you know, punk book, but it's not coming until May 2022. I backed that thing in June. That book should have been fucking done. We're talking almost a whole fucking year. Like, a lot happens in a year.
Yep.
No offense to anybody, but like, I'm not backing a fucking Kickstarter that's more than 3 months out. I don't give a shit who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
I don't care, because anything could happen in a year. In a year from now, I could be dead. You could be dead. Hell, I could be on Mars for all we know. And it's funny when you say that, but it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be a senator in a year from now, technically. You know, or no, actually 2 years from now. There's an open Senate seat in Connecticut, or there's not an open one, but I could primary or run against, and I could become a senator. And then all of a sudden, if I had a book that's supposed to be done on Kickstarter, and I just want a Senate seat, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
So my point is that anything could happen in a given time, and so I'm at the stage where it's like, you gotta get me your fucking book in 3 months or less.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then again, I mean, that's you know, it's the same kind of problem. And the thing is, like, I love one shots, but it's the same problem that the stores have, because I mean, people want the stuff, and then if you like it, you want it more quick. You don't want to sit there and wait a year
of a one shot thing. So Zenoscope's doing a lot of one shots right now.
Yeah.
What the thing about Zenoscope's one shots, though, is Zenoscope's one shots are, you know, connected to their universe. And so when you have a one shot that builds upon another one shot, that builds upon another one shot, that then builds upon, you know, a 3-issue miniseries, that then builds on a 6-issue miniseries, that then connects into the Grim Fairy Tales Volume 2 line, that then goes back into a one shot, and then now that's what you do for the you know, all of 2022. You now need to read this one shot over here, this one shot over there, and this over here, because now you have a universal position. So it's kind of like if DC said, fuck it, we're doing one shots. We're doing Green Lantern one shot, Flash one shot, but then we have Justice League continuing, and those one shots build into it, and then they do other one shots that build into it, and then they do a bunch of, they have a main Batman line, and then they're doing a one shot every single month that plays into that. That's different because you're building it universally.
Right.
Nobody in indie comics can fucking do that. It can't be done right now. And even if you have a lot of content, because the second you're able to do that, you're not indie comics anymore. You might be a small publisher. You're not indie comics.
Right.
And that's the problem. And I like one shots. I get it. It's more content. But at the same fucking time, I think you hit it also. And I think the other point that we haven't brought up, and it's just my thought on it, is that you're charging me $20 for a fucking cover A one shot? Are you fucking high? Like Zenoscope's charging me $8 for a 72-page one shot. You're selling me a 52-pager or a 38-pager for $20 cover A with an artist who's good but is not a top name. And then I could go buy that same one shot from Zenoscope on a live stream done by Keith Garvey, Sun Kumanaki, Ebass. Like, you're not earning my dollar. And that's the other problem too, is that companies are not sitting around anymore. You have companies like Dynamite. You have companies that are just saying, fuck this. Well, we're going to do variants too. And we're going to get better fucking people than you're going to get. And then we're going to do more creative covers and have more fun with this shit. And maybe our comics aren't so original, but we're a better price point. And I hate to say this, but I buy my comics 2.5 months advance at Midtown. A $4 book cost me $2.57, I want to say, for that book. Now, you have people who are doing some cool shit with certain comic covers and look good. You just had David Nakayama on a DC Comics cover like 2 months ago. That book cost me $2.50. And you're going to charge me $25 for a somewhat interesting comic guy? I mean, I don't know. It's Jessica Cruz as Sinestro Corp's DNA.
Yeah.
And the story's okay. It's not a bad story. It's not a good story. But it's a DNA cover.
Yeah.
$2.50 that I know is going to get here in legitimately 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So that I think that's the other problem too. And this is why I get flack for it. Because it's like, oh no, there's not a problem. And I'm like, the fucking problem's there. And the other side of this is that look at what's happened with the leveraging with big companies. Debt is getting repositioned, and there's a whole financial crisis coming. And it's going to hit. And then you think 1099, what is it? 1099K, I want to say. You don't think that's going to affect Kickstarter? There's all these fucking problems that are about to hit fucking doc. And this is why it irritates me, because I get made fun of for this. I get attacked for it. And, nobody listens, though, to me. And instead they attack me. So I'm very, very, very concerned about Kickstarter. And I think there's going to be a massive backlash to indie comics. And I think it's going to start with a lot of companies like Scout. I think Scout, Behemoth, Second Sight Publishing, I think they're going to actually kill the indie world. I think they're going to do irreparable damage. I really do.
Maybe Nostradamus.
I'll take the heat on it, and I'm the first person, but I don't think that what I'm saying is, out of bounds by any stretch of the imagination, because everything that they're buying is not going to hit, and they don't give a flying fuck. If they pick up 25 books and 5 of them do well and they cut the other 20, they don't care about the shops. They don't care about that shit. They care about selling shit and finding the best of the best of the best. Yeah. And that's what's going on. And so I think it's very important that people in comics understand what the fuck's going on. And so if you get signed by Scout, your advance better be fucking good.
There's no advances unless you're a big name.
Your deal and your safety net and your positions better be good, and you better take money up front, because if you don't, you're an idiot, because that's a big spec bet. And this is what I say to people. I say, if you wouldn't go produce a 100-issue variant, hiring a separate artist outside of your Kickstarter and take money that you might not have and put it on a credit card, then why would you go to Scout if they're not giving you any money either? And because you notice that you would sell those 100 books at cons, right? And that you'd sell them for like $80 if you think your project is that good. Yeah. And that's my new question to people, is that, and you can answer that question, is that, do you believe Pistol Fist is that good that you could take your first issue, create a variant of it, and then push it out there at cons as a con exclusive, that it would cost you maybe $4 to produce, or maybe it would actually cost you, depending if you got an artist for $350 run, print run, it cost you about $7 to produce a variant, give or take, on a $250 print run of a book, if you paid an artist $300 to $400 to do it. Right. I mean, my math is pretty accurate on that, right?
Yeah. It just depends on who the artist is, and I mean, if you got like John Boy Myers or something, then you're looking at like over $1,000 a cover and stuff like that.
You got something like John Royal.
Yeah.
John Royal's not that bad, all things considered.
Yeah.
I know exactly how much John Royal charges.
Yeah.
You just got to catch it at the right time.
Right. Yep.
I know how much Keith Garvey charges. I know how much Senko Inaki charges. I know how much Ivan Tao charges. I know exactly what everybody's rates are.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. It's good to know. It's not that hard to figure it out either.
Yep.
Adult Matique. Now that's a nice one right there.
Yeah.
But no. I'm throwing you the question though in a lot of ways because
yeah, I mean,
you could take the fifth. You could take the fifth, and then we could get Nick Cannon, and then I'll just go and.
Well, I mean, I just like I know. I think it's like it's like a lot of stuff.
I'm asking a bigger question. Is what I'm asking. The real question I'm asking is that how much money are you willing to pump into a project to believe in it?
Right.
Because this is where I think it gets super interesting. I don't think people understand that this is a business, right?
Right.
So at a certain point, the real heart of the question versus the earth on top of the question is that how much money are you willing to pump into the business to say my ROI is X? So am I willing to put $5,000 into this because I know I might pull out 7? Am I willing to put 8 into this because I'm going to pull out 12? Am I or that I need to put 6 in and I hope I pull out 9?
Yeah.
You know, and this is one of the things that I think people don't understand about comics. And maybe I'm wrong about this, and I'm going through this right now in my business, is that how much ROI can I put into this? Now, in my eBay comic business, I know the exact number of what I need to pull, how much percentage, what my nut is, for lack of a better word, to break even.
Yeah.
You know, and I price accordingly, you know, and I understand with certain things that A, B, C, and D have to occur, and that I have P&L statements. And I spent a lot of time building out Excel sheets, understanding, and I document where all my money's fucking going.
Yeah.
For a reason. And the reason what I'm asking, I guess, is that, you know, how much money are you willing to put in? And you don't have to answer because it's rhetorical, and I'm not asking you the details. But I think this is super important for people to understand.
Yeah.
That this is a business. And I think a lot of people don't get that because what is it? 9 out of 10 creators don't recoup their money they put into their books.
I mean, something like that. Yeah, I'm sure. Because I mean, really, I mean, in a lot of ways, comics, I mean, are you know, they're more of a passion thing to do. And like for me, the tough thing is just knowing like where you're at and what you're willing to do too, as far as like I could make a ton more money if I want it with Pistol Fist, if I wanted to pick a side and either go full on right wing or left wing with it and push that and join that narrative and really push those things.
So I was on a show and I got criticized for it because I used the R word.
Yeah.
So I said Comics is retarded, and I got criticized for it. Now they didn't let me finish my position, and it was a mistake. It was a very left wing show, and so we don't use the R word here. And I'm like, you gotta be shitting me a brick.
Yeah.
I don't, and this isn't attacking Comics. I just my whole argument was saying that look, there is a point where you have to understand institutional positions. And my point is that what happens when companies like Heritage or Cato or Breitbart calls up and says, we want to do comics, you know, they're not going to be calling, you know, somebody from Comicsgate up. So like, that doesn't work for us. We know we're going to get people from the other side who want to cross over, who say, it's interesting. Breitbart already proved the model with Clinton Cash. They already proved it. That model is self-sufficient. They just need a good idea. Because people on the right want to read graphic novels. They want to read this stuff. They're like, oh man, it's cool. And Breitbart made a fortune on it. Chuck Dixon made good money on that. The point I'm trying to make is that they're not calling Comicsgate up for that shit. And rightfully so. Same thing on the other side. So I don't know if picking a side is the right move because once if we look at,
I would say it's. I mean, the money seems to say differently, but I don't. But it's a short term. It's a short term thing, though.
Because the whole thing is that you get a quick payday, but then what happens afterwards? See, I love the concept of after work. I don't want a payday. I want after work, and I want billability. It's a great term to use, and this is in-depth stuff. We're going into where I'm not interested. This is why if I read a book on anything, whether I read a comic or I basically bring it to a publisher, I say, I want no advance. I want a royalty. I want a straight up royalty.
Yeah.
The reason why is that I'm going to hustle that book like crazy. I'm going to be on everybody's show. I'm going to have like 3 or 4 shows a week talking about my book because I want a royalty and I want to get into a secondary position. And the third, because then royalty rates change if you know how to negotiate your royalty correctly, especially when you're not taking an advance because you're mitigating risk on the other side because royalties count against the advances. But now I've created an asset versus a payday. I'm interested in asset creation. So there's going to be a point where the Daily Wire, who just entered sports, you know, they're building out a sports team. They're going to be doing comics sooner rather than later. And if you think they're not, oh, yes, they are. No question. It is a matter of time. And who do you think they're going to call? Not Comicsgate.
Yeah.
So Comicsgate is broken because they don't understand and they don't see the writing on the wall. And they could attack me for this, but when I'm running that promotion, I'll be like, hey, Comicsgate's going to knock on my door and be like, hey, you're the best. You're better than me, man. We're going to make millions of dollars. Oh, you're Comicsgate. And that's how that conversation is going to go.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, I know exactly how it's going to go. And when it happens, you know, people are going to be bitching on Twitter and then be like, I made a bad business decision because while they might have made 300,000 because they were Comicsgate, they could have made 3 million because they were institutional, somewhat right center. So, and still tell the exact same stories and still make the same money of their 300,000. It just would have been over 5 years, not 3. That's how I feel on the topic. But apparently on left-wing media shows attacking crazy right-wing conspiracy, you can't use the R word is the lesson, everybody.
Right. Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, because I got asked to join and stuff when it was starting, and I'm just like, I was like, I don't believe in those things because any kind of movement is always known by like the worst actors. Like and it's just and they never end well either. Like no, I mean, so it's you know, I understand the temptation of hitching yourself to that and bringing in all this money, but it's like, man, you're gonna have to live with those repercussions for years. And I had friends that were in it, and their families had death threats. They had their addresses posted on Twitter, with people encouraging other people to go to their house and beat them up and beat their kids up and stuff. I mean, it's you know, it's not good. It's not you know, it's not a good idea, no matter what the thing is. And that's why I don't really like protesting a lot of different things either, because you always have the little people that get hurt by by stuff like that. And I don't know.
I mean, you know, I'm not Comicsgate by any stretch of the imagination. I just publicly attack them, and I'm waiting for the backlog. I can't wait for it. It's going to be fun. Because if they want to scrap, I'm ready to. You know, and I'll invite a bunch of them on, and I'll tell them why they're all wrong. I have no problem doing that either. You know, I think it'll be a fun discussion. I really think it'll be a great discussion. But again, I mean, I'm not part of it, and I have certain things, and I mean, my political stance is pretty well known. Where I'm libertarian, I'm very much just leave me the fuck alone, and I want free enterprise, free business, and I want freedom of speech. Which is, if you're writing comics or drawing art, you should want that too. And that I think Comicsgate, you know, much like a clock, you know, clocks are right a bunch of times. Comicsgate has some certain fair points on certain things, pushing lines. But that doesn't mean they're right all the time. And it doesn't mean that all the bad things they've done should be completely forgotten. And also, though, it doesn't mean that if they did something good, that shouldn't be respected as well. It should be. You know, we should view people as individuals and not as groups.
Of course, when they choose to connect to that group and then promote it every chance they get because they know they're going to make money from it, it gets hard to separate that. I mean, and that's the bad thing of it. And you know, the thing is, like with like Marvel and DC, it's like, I mean, it's like the arts in general. Yes, most liberal arts, things are predominantly liberal. And the thing is, it's not so much like when you see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, when you know the people with different things, it's not that they're trying to indoctrinate us with things. I mean, yes, I mean, too, if you want to take an extreme description of that, you can say that, but it's like that's their worldview. That's what they believe. So they're only doing what they believe. They're not trying to, that that's why they try to make it these big conspiracies, and it's like that's what they believe. So they're presenting the world and their stuff in that way. I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't disagree with a lot of it or some of it or whatever, but like I hate the whole thing of, everybody on my side is good and everybody on their side is evil. It's just it's very immature to think that way, to not understand.
Oh, it's way more complicated than all of this stuff, and it's very very interesting what's going on with all of it, and it's my point is that I view people as individuals. That's my entire point of
Yeah.
my show. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
play to any group, and if Comicsgate put me up in like groups saying, "Hey, you're part of Comicsgate, Andrew," I'll be like, "Nope, nope."
Yeah.
That's okay. You can think what you want. It's a free country. You're just wrong, and that's what it is. So it's. I'm not part of them. Some people might think I am. I have nothing to do with them, and I personally don't care. And if I interview somebody from Comicsgate, well, I interview whoever I want, when I want, how I want, and nobody tells me otherwise.
Yeah.
So there you go. And again, my positions are very clear. And if people don't like me because of those positions, that's cool on them. There's a lot more people. There's 7 billion people on this planet. I'm
Yeah.
sure I can find at least 10 million who agree with me, if not more. So
Oh yeah.
that's legitimately 990 9.999 more than I need. So there you go. But anyway, enough about that. Now that we've ruined
Yeah.
your career and mine, clearly, our careers are over here. Just so everybody knows, we're forming a company tomorrow. This is why we're doing this interview.
Okay.
We're calling Screw It.
Not Comicsgate. That's our.
We're forming Image 2.0. We're marching into Diamond and telling them that we're not a union. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Imagine we did that. Oh my God, that'd be such a great April Fool's Day joke. You go to Diamond's headquarters with everything like indie comics, and we say we are Image 2.0. We are not a union, and you have signs and T-shirts made up. Oh, it'd be great. It'd be such a good joke. It'd be the ultimate troll to the union, to Image Comics, and to Diamond. It would be like the trifecta. It'd be perfect. It'd be so good. It'd be so good. I feel like organizing it. I just go create the Facebook group, the troll group of Image 2.0. Oh, it'd be great. But anyway, enough about ending our careers.
Yeah.
Our careers are over, but after this interview, I'm just letting you know. I'm letting you know before anybody else lets you know that I've ended your career and you've ended mine. So it's an equal exchange.
Okay.
But anyhow, having said all that, I do want to do lightning round with Kickstarter questions, and I'm gonna let you self-promote. Biggest pet peeve with Kickstarter? With Kickstarters, not Kickstarter the platform, but Kickstarter.
I was gonna say.
We're not attacking Kickstarter on this platform.
No. If we're saying specifically comic Kickstarters, I will say the lack of editors on indie books. And it really depends. Like with the I mean, in general, I would say the lack of full quality. Like, because you tend to have a book that either has really good art or really good story. You don't tend to have both, and then they suffer even more because you don't because that's where they tend to cut the line is or draw the line is with having an editor that they really need, because there's just I mean they're full of errors, and sometimes when they don't hire a decent letterer either, it's kind of.
I'm curious now what an error is. You know, we're supposed to do lightning round. What's an error?
Misspelled words.
Right.
Just things like that. I mean, and other things like, you know, if something is colored wrong in where the character is like, you know, just stuff that you would think is obvious, but they're doing it so fast. Usually because they're behind and they're trying to catch up.
Yeah.
Or whatever, that it's just, but more for the story and things like that, though, that it's just not, it's more like the beginning when Image began, and it was the artists doing all the stuff before they brought writers in to help make the stuff better and higher quality.
Basically quality, just collective.
Yeah. It's just quality, like, and they need to care, because it's like you said. I mean, it's just everybody just thinks they're going to be millionaires if they put their stuff on there, and it's like you said, it's oversaturation. So if you want to actually compete, you actually have to have better quality on there.
What makes you back a project? Next question. Sort of piggyback off of that.
Yeah. I definitely.
So I'll phrase it differently. So you come into Kickstarter, you are shown 100 projects. You don't pick one. What makes you back it?
Usually if it's unique, usually if it's like a real, if it's a real passion thing that somebody is doing, not just like, oh, I've always wanted to do a comic, and so I'm gonna do this thing. Like for me, it's, I mean, there was like one thing I backed was this one guy that was Jewish, and he was a photographer, and he went and did a bunch of photos of Auschwitz and stuff like that. And but he did, like, he took photos of his whole journey, and he did and he sent, like, if you pledged a certain amount, he like sent you like every person got like a specific, like, different separate individual picture on top of the other stuff, and that was one of the things that I did. But it was just like, I mean, that's the thing, like, to him it was like a really personal thing. It wasn't just like, oh, this is a creative thing. I mean, it's, you know, to me, that's, yeah, it's got to be something like that that's really moving, or it's got to be like really high quality and professional.
And then what makes you not back a project? Because that's the other side to that question.
Yeah. When it's not good quality, or when it just seems like I'm getting a sales thing and they really don't care. It's just, they know that they're just saying all the words, but they really don't feel it. Although I don't get as moved by people who aren't as smooth as other people. That doesn't really bother me, because I know, I mean, there's a lot of really good creators are very introverted and not very good in front of a camera, and everything else. So I mean, that stuff doesn't bother me. The quality probably bothers me more. And I don't care if I don't even care if they have a video or not, or anything like that. Like, it doesn't, like, I'd rather just see the quality of the product.
And then finally, because I definitely agree. Yeah, my dog's being let out because she needs to escape. So she's now choosing to be difficult because she doesn't like the cold. It's a cute little thing. So obviously, finally, I'm gonna give you a chance to self-promote after a lightning round that did not turn into a lightning round. For this, I need to work on it. Clearly.
Yeah. That's okay. I have lots of thoughts on things, so it doesn't tend to go super fast anyway.
It's all right. It's all right. This pondering, and it's very important. And I'll let outside, so it's all right. So where can people find the Kickstarter self-promoting? Where can people hear more of your thoughts? Obviously, I didn't touch like your podcast. I didn't touch half the things I wanted to talk about. And we've been speaking for almost 2 hours, which is not good, because it should have been a 45-minute interview, which means that clearly I need to step up my game. But again, it's not about me; it's about you. So where can people find you, support your Kickstarter, and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, definitely on Kickstarter, the Pistol Fist. On the Kickstarter right now. I do have other things that are on there with that. and there's a lot of cheaper things too that people can get, because I realize it's holiday time too. I just wanted to do it around when the actual anniversary
I'm
was of
sorry.
it. Yeah,
That's not
yeah,
right.
yeah. Nessie, devil's corn. And I am mainly on Facebook. I am on Instagram and Twitter, but too. But I spend more time on Facebook because that's where most of the people I work with, which is the podcast that I do. Aside from do the Baron Earl show with Mike Barron, we talk to a lot of comic legends and other people in the business, and we've been trying to kind of branch out into other.
You're a poor man, Pop Anime Comics Lounge. And
Yeah, yeah. Well,
that's what it's about.
it's okay. But but I do a lot of audio drama podcasts, doing Supersonic Pod Comics. Also been on a really fun and silly D&D podcast called Playing Games with Strangers that I do with a bunch of our voice actors from the other thing. And I will also say that if anybody is familiar with Jason Brubaker out there, we are also working on a podcast version of his Sithra webtoon, and going to be presenting it to. We actually have some Hollywood people interested in helping with that, and we are going to be presenting that to some big places like Spotify and Amazon and some other and iHeartRadio and things like that. So.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff's going on clearly with you and everything that you're doing. So obviously, I want people to back the Kickstarter. Obviously it's up above. Check that out, and then when people, obviously, for those who need it, and I'm going to keep reminding people that it is super important to back indie content creators, because a lot of these projects cannot be made without people, say, pledging to Kickstarter and supporting it and picking up one book, two books, whether it's digital, physical. It goes a long way. And then even going further into it, it's very important that once you actually back, you share that you backed, and then you also share it out on social media, and you let people know that, hey, this project actually exists, and this is what it is, because, well, Facebook algorithms are not what they used to be. And so it's very important that people understand that and that they engage in that. And then even going further outward, if you can't back it because money's tight, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
One of the things that you can do is actually share it out on Facebook, Twitter, share it in your Instagram story, share it, in an email, send it to a message, tell a friend, because that stuff goes a long way too. And you never know who's watching, who's checking out what you're doing. And, it could very well be that you share it out to somebody, and then all of a sudden you get 3 more backers on the project.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just as effective as if you pledge. So obviously I recommend everybody doing that. And if you need to find anything that JS Earls does, obviously just look up JS Earls on Google, and I'm sure you'll be directed. And as far as I'm concerned, obviously, if you're printing comics and you don't have a printer, I recommend Mix'em. Mix'em has been very good with a lot of projects I've received. Obviously, I haven't printed a comic yet, but I do like their work. So I recommend that, obviously, use my code, Andrew Davis, 5% off. Really cool product that they're doing, really great company, great customer service, and I like their work and what they do with comics. They do some cool stuff with comics as well. Also, they print other things like postcards and a variety of other things like books. So obviously, they're not just a comic printing company. They do a lot of cool stuff as far as books and other things. And I know a lot of people who do mangas use Mix'em because they have certain sizes that is more of a manga feel to it. Furthermore, comic supplies, as I stated, I would like my comics to remain mint, and I use BCW products. That's bags and boards, and you get 10% off by using Pop Anime Comics, not Andrew Davis, that's Mix'em, but Pop Anime Comics, that's POPANIMECOMICS Comics. It's up in the description up above or down below if you're watching on YouTube. 10% off. It's a big deal. Like, I buy $100, $200 worth of supplies every 3 months. That's $20 off. It goes a long way. So, and if you're shooting out a Kickstarter and you just packed up 700 comics, well, you're going to need a bunch of bags and boards, and you could be saving 30, 40, 50 bucks. And, well, every dollar counts. I also have Buy Me a Coffee, so you can check that out. I appreciate all the support. I offer live read ads. I offer, buying guest spots. You just throw me money because, well, all the money goes back into supporting the show. And that's what I have pretty much going on with me. And I am fan funded, so I appreciate all the support, whether you're just liking, sharing, checking me out on stuff. And then in January, I may or may not be running a Kickstarter, so definitely check that out. And got some cool things up the sleeve that I'm working on that, you might not want to miss it. And we might have New Year's specials. So for first 48 hours is what I'm thinking is going to be really cool stuff. And then, well, the prices are going up. So totally appreciate the support. I am not in much of a podcaster as my friend JS Earls is, and I'm kind of jealous because you're doing like 19 podcasts and I could barely handle 2. But having said all that, I'm going to give you the final word as I walk in shame, not realizing I am not working hard enough.
No, it's fine. Yeah. No, it's but the biggest thing is the difference is I have a lot of people that work with me and that I get to boss around and tell them what to do. So it's it makes it a little bit easier. You got to learn to delegate, but it's got to treat like we said before, you got to treat people good. I mean, I treat a lot of our people nicely even when I can't pay them. So I mean, but that goes a long way. So yep, yeah, yeah, and I will say, like we were saying, support. Even if you're not interested in Pistol Fist, support quality comics on Kickstarter.
Well, I believe that is a wrap. My dog is clearly making the final call in this discussion, and so obviously she's in a barking mood, and she's made the final call. And I believe that's a perfect place to end because, well, you have to support indie comics, and I couldn't agree more. So that's a wrap, everybody.
Cool.